Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffat as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas, sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffat.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffat. I'm in Burrawang in New South Wales in Australia. It is 9:30 in the morning and it's cold outside. It's winter. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the studio, to the Ultimate Dental Podcast studio, all the way across the Pacific Ocean in Denver, Colorado, USA, Laura Schwindt. Laura, hi. Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast studio. Great to have you.
Hello. Thank you so much. Great to be here. I'm excited.
No, it's good. Now, Laura, your name popped up on a social media post that I was viewing. You are a former dentist and a good friend of some of my dental speaking colleagues, some of who live in Denver. And I saw you. I thought, who is this person and what does she do? And does she do something that is of interest to dentists? And I guess this podcast is really based on helping dentists to maximize the gift of owning a dental practice and what that can do, the financial rewards of being a business owner in the profession of dentistry. So I thought that you look like somebody who could help my listeners and viewers with helping them to, I guess, look at what they're doing and can they be operating in a better way than what they are now? And the answer to that question is yes, for everybody. Everybody can be operating better. But let's visit your story because I find it interesting for anybody who, in the middle of a dental career, has a career change for something that is better for them, but also better for other people. So over to you, Laura. Tell us how you became a dentist and then how you have moved into coaching.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for all the ways that you help dentists operate better. I am inspired by you as well and excited to have these conversations with you. So let me think back. I think my dad was a dentist. And so that was my inspiration because he adored dentistry. He absolutely loved dentistry. And so, he came home from work and he was in a jolly mood. I'm tired, but never, not once did I ever hear him complain about dentistry. And so that kind of inspired me. And I was in college, I took the DAT and I didn't tell him and ended up doing well on it. So I thought, well, this is probably my path. So went into dental school and became a dentist. And fast forward several years, had my own practice, small little boutique practice in my hometown. We moved back to my hometown because my mom had cancer and we wanted to be close to her. So I had 3 small kids and decided to open my own shop. So opened my own shop and it was great. I absolutely loved it. Small family atmosphere, but then it grew like you would want it to, right? But I didn't have the guardrails on. I didn't have my North Star really defined. And so as it grew, I just went with it, right? I just it's time to hire a consultant. So hire the consultant. The consultant says, oh, you need another operatory. You need some more equipment. You need some more team members. You need an associate. And so this small little practice that I was managing with 3 small kids and a husband who worked out of town suddenly became a bit overwhelming. And because of that, because of my capacity being kind of overrun there, I went down the path of burnout pretty severely, to the point where I lost all joy. It probably didn't help that during that time, my mother had passed away. So there was definitely some major grief. My dad had had open heart surgery, so there was some stress with that. So there were a lot of things going on. But what really got me was a conversation with a patient one day. She was my favorite patient, one of my favorite patients, because when she came in, we could just kibitz. We could just really have a good conversation. I really enjoyed her. And we were just visiting, and she said, you're just so good at doing it all. And that should have made me happy, right? That should have been a great compliment, but it really just stabbed me in the heart, because I knew that there were a lot of things that were really important to me that I wasn't doing very well at all. And so that was my turning point. I decided to hire a life coach, which back in the time was kind of scary, because that was during the time where you weren't really sure if you should acknowledge that you were having some mental health issues, right? Like, it might be a little dangerous. You might lose patients, you might lose team members, you might lose respect. And so it was really a heavy decision to make. But when I made it, she saved my life. She literally saved my life. And at the end of our relationship, we coached for about 15 months. I was thanking her for transforming my relationship with stress. And I just said, I wish I could give this gift to other dentists, because I know that maybe I'm not the only one that's feeling this way. And so she said just 3 little words. She said, "Why can't you?" And I was like, well, because I have a practice. I have 3 small kids. My husband travels for work. I can't become a life coach, right? But those words kind of imprinted on my heart. And so through that coaching, I really radically shifted the practice. When I was in that burnout, I lost all but one team member, because I was not being an effective leader during that time at all. And so that was really challenging. But as I came through that, and with my life coach's help, I rebuilt. And I ended up building what I call my dream team, and creating a more holistic atmosphere in the practice. And so the last several years of my practice were really happy. And I wish I would have done that from the start, right?
It's interesting. I'm sorry to pause your story, and I know that there's so much more to come, but I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned. That conversation with your favorite patient, where you felt that there all of a sudden in your mind, or you became aware or more aware of, there were things that you wanted to do that you weren't doing, even though there was this perception that you had it all. What were those things?
Yeah. A lot of it came down to my kids. I was present, but I wasn't with them. I was a shadow of myself. I was going through the motions. I was doing all the things. I volunteered at their school. I was on the school board. I went on field trips, helped them with projects, took them to all their teacher parent conferences, did all the things. But I was just a shell, just kind of going through the motions. And when she said that, "You can do it all," I was just like, well, maybe you can do it all, but I'm certainly not doing the things that I want to do well.
So
I'm
that's
touching things half baked, right? Just not giving my best.
because a lot of dentists have that same experience, way more than will admit it. When they're at work, they wish that they were at home with the family, and when they're at home with the family, they're worried about things at work. And so you were living that, but also you were living that as a mum, as opposed to a father who, back in those days was the mum was more expected to give some time to the children. And so I can understand how, because I lived that same thing. I was always work focused. And so, now my children are adults. Fortunately, I have a much better relationship with them, but I know so many people who, because of that concentration on work, have a distant relationship with their children, and there's no understanding either way. So this was something that you identified as needing attention. And so, for things to change, things have to change. And you made that decision. And that's a big decision, because dentistry and business ownership in dentistry, you are a significant breadwinner in your family, significant amount of money. So to change careers and find your dream is a big financial decision to make. How did making that? You obviously had that strong belief that this was the right thing to do.
I love that you say that. It does feel like I had a strong belief, but at the time it was scary. It was really scary. And what happened was there was a medical situation that went through my family. It started with my oldest son. We found out he had a genetic disorder of the smooth muscle tissue. So found during a sports exam when he was 13 that his aorta was much larger than it should have been. And he was told that he could no longer play contact sports. He was a big soccer player, so that was a big deal. Couldn't do any heavy lifting and probably would need surgery. And so thankfully we went for a second opinion at the Mayo Clinic, and they advocated that we watch this. And so we watched it, for several years. And I'm happy to say to this day, he's 25, he still has not needed surgery. But that started a shift in us, that moment where we recognized that we had been on this treadmill. My husband's an emergency medicine physician, so he was working quite a bit too. And we had been on this treadmill, and we recognized that we were missing out on so much of life because we were so exhausted when we were home. And we just said, we gotta shake things up. This is a message that, tomorrow, no one's promised tomorrow. And so let's enjoy these kids. And so we really started assessing our lives and making changes. We built a grand house on a lake. It was lovely. We decided to put it up for sale. And that was really hard because it was supposed to be the house that our kids brought their grandkids to, it was that house, right? But we just said it's not worth it. It's not worth, if we can simplify. And we started having garage sales and simplifying and doing all the things. And then we found out that my husband had the same thing and actually did need emergency surgery. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. That was like, all right, that's it. We are for sure radically changing everything. And so he had emergency surgery. I call it our spring break at the Mayo Clinic. We were at the Mayo Clinic for 15 days in the middle of March and came back from that, and the house sold, and we decided to sell everything else and move to the mountains of Oregon and start over. And so, I had to sell my practice. And it was at that time that those three little words kind of bubbled up from my heart. Like, why can't you be a life coach? And so, but, I tell this story like it's like on this timeline, right? But there was this, and there was lots of time in between where I really lost my identity. I didn't, my family thought I was crazy, friends. And so it was really hard. And so like you say you had this belief. Well, I did have that internal belief, but let me tell you, there were days where it was very quiet, that internal belief, and the outside forces were very loud. So, but hindsight, I think it is my calling. So
you've moved to Oregon with the family.
Mm-hmm.
What then happened? How did you then progress into the coaching, the life coaching, and helping people with their mindset and enjoying a better way of life?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So I went through life coach training with a company called Heroic. So Heroic Performance Life Coaching is what I'm certified in. And as I was going through the training, when we go through the training with Heroic, we are client one. So we have to do absolutely everything in the training. So, as far as like all the tools and the techniques, we have to go through that. And as I was going through that, I was learning so much. And I had this sudden realization one day, like, oh my gosh, had I practiced this stuff as an early dentist, I would have never burned out. I know that with 100% certainty. And that was like my aha. And I made a vow that day I said, I am going to bring this to as many people in our profession as I possibly can. And that was
Wow.
it. That was the moment.
Wow. So what was it? What was it? What was it? You're not going to keep it a secret from us.
Well, there's so many. There's absolutely so many different tools and techniques. But for me, it was, and this is probably one of my favorite ones, is the concept of anti-fragility. Have you ever heard of anti-fragile?
No, never.
Okay. This I absolutely love. So there's fragile. We know fragile, right? You have a glass, you knock it off the table, it's fragile, it breaks. And then we have what people think is the opposite of fragile, which is resilient. And we hear a lot about being resilient to stress in dentistry, right? And resilience is stress hits and you bounce back, right? You bounce back, you come back from that stress. Well, anti-fragility takes it one step further. Anti-fragility says a challenge hits and you get stronger. In other words, welcome the challenges, because with every challenge, you get stronger. You know, like if you think about a flame, the candle of a small candle, the wind will burn out that flame, right? But if you've got a big fire, the wind comes and it just fuels that fire. And so you just think of these challenges as fuel for your growth. And had I really embraced that early on, let me tell you, I would have much sooner shifted from victim mentality to creator mentality, right? Like instead of why is this happening to me? More, hey, this is happening to me. This is awesome. Bring it on. Let's see what we can learn. Let's see how we can grow. And yeah, that's how you get better. And I just think about all the stress and all the worry of, especially as a new dentist, you know, when you're doing something and you're worried about how it turns out, or you're worried that something didn't quite go so well, and you start to get shameful and beat yourself up. And why did this happen to me? Why did this situation happen? Instead, you just like, bring it on. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to get better. And so just that concept, when I first learned that, I was like, wow, that would have shifted my whole mindset around how challenging dentistry is.
Well, it is. And, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about a client at the moment who's just had a significant issue with a patient wanting a refund for some orthodontic treatment, which had a good result. But in fine detail, there's a couple of issues, and it could just be a cash grab.
Mm-hmm.
But because my client is not an orthodontist, you know, to challenge it, you know, the authorities would just say, the boards will just say, but you're not an orthodontist.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what you said about the fire is really, really important. And that's goes back to Nietzsche, isn't it? You know, what does not defeat me makes me stronger.
Right.
And so there's always, you know, if people have a life of success, it's usually because they've made mistakes and they've learned from those mistakes.
Yes.
It's not because they've had success and you don't learn from your successes. You just, oh yeah, that worked. But
Mm-hmm.
when something doesn't work, it's like analyzing what could I have done better? What should I do better next time?
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to apply it as well. And that's always the case. We can learn, but if we just learn it as a lesson but don't apply the learning, what's the point?
Yes.
So you've actually gone and done that. You've analyzed what was affecting you. You've eliminated that, and then you've grown at the bits that you want to grow to be a better person and to be a better coach and to help other people. I've every dentist, as I said earlier, every dentist needs to improve in every aspect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the degree is not the final thing.
Mm-mm.
It's more learning, more personal development, more managing of people, managing of patients, managing of expectations of your employees and your patients and your own and your
Mm-hmm.
family.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a complex role.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as much as we think we get paid well, we don't get paid as well as we should for all the responsibility we do have to have.
Amen. 100%. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many hats that we wear. And I think that's, you know, it's just something to remember too. Like these challenges, you know, when you have that anti-fragile attitude, it's not saying that the challenge is fun, right? Like challenges in the moment are challenges. They're not necessarily a good time. But I mean, if you can embrace them and be like, you know what, this isn't fun, but what can I learn? What can I be grateful for? I have a dear friend. She has a saying and I absolutely love it. She says, whatever happens to her, she says, thank you for this gift. Isn't that beautiful? And I've adopted that because I think that there is always a gift in anything that happens. And if you're looking for the gift, boy, you'll come out of that challenge running instead of crawling.
So how do you apply this to your day? Do you look at when something happens, do you immediately pause and make a note? In this situation, here's the gift. Or at the end of the day, do you look at what's happened from getting up to going to bed and say, all right, these things happen. What was the gift in each? Are you analyzing it like that to maximize your anti-fragility? Because sometimes there can be instances throughout the day that you just brush them off as events, but they are significant events and significant lessons and teachings that you can experience as well. Life does teach us a lot of things, but you've taken that lesson and now applied it to a change of career.
Yeah, I'd love to say that I'm really good at doing it in the moment, but I'm still a work in progress with that. So another one of our coach practices is a PM review, which I do every single night. I journal and I write down what went well. So I celebrate what went well. And then I look at what needs work. So not what went bad or what was awful, but what could I do a little better tomorrow, right? What hit me today and I didn't show up as my best self, or what hit me today and I retreated back to an old habit or an old limiting belief. And then I just kind of review it and then make some intentions for tomorrow so that maybe tomorrow I can get back on track, right?
Yes. Really, really important. In those early days where you made the switch, because it was a clean break from dentistry, I'm assuming you'd sold your practice, relocated to Oregon, didn't you work as a dentist out there, or you just went straight into coaching?
Yeah. There was a little time where I just recovered a little bit and enjoyed just not having any responsibility work-wise and just hung out with my kids. And then COVID hit.
Okay.
So that was sort of, I guess maybe another message that, oh, this is the time, right? This is your time. And so, yeah, I embraced COVID and really decided to go full tilt into life coaching and helping dentists and their teams and anybody around them that wanted help. For instance, one of my clients is the wife of a dentist, so there's people around dentists that appreciate life coaching as well.
So how did you go looking for clients? Because you have a radar up because this is now your new power, soon to be your superpower because you're developing it. And so you can identify things in people that they don't actually identify in them, almost like a dietitian, they identify, they can tell if people aren't well just by looking at them. You can tell have a stress-related condition by talking with them that they may not be aware of themselves. How did you go about getting your clients? Did you advertise? Did you do word of mouth? What was the way? And obviously with starting any coaching business, there's got to be a memorable client who said, "I'm so glad I found you." That inspired you to keep going. So how did that all happen?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. I love talking about this. So, how do I find clients? At first, I started just doing some speaking and doing some workshops and introducing these ideas to as many people as I could. And that really helped my, I would say, colleague network know who I was and what I was doing. And it's interesting, but then my colleague network is where I get most of my referrals from. And those are beautiful. And that's what I love the most, actually, is personal referrals. And so when I do a speaking engagement or when I do a workshop, I always, I offer this always, but I always offer a no strings attached conversation. And this is just for you, this conversation. And we'll work through one challenge or one goal during that conversation. And sometimes it spills to two conversations because sometimes I want to check back and see how they did with their goal or their challenge, right? But there's absolutely no strings attached to that whatsoever. And so that has been a beautiful gift because in dentistry, and you might know this, but in dentistry, it's not very often that you get a free lunch, right? So to speak, right? There's always somebody coming and they want to sell you something or get you to join something. And so this was like a real, when I first met with my life coach and there was just this free conversation, I was just like, and that's it? Like, and it's all about me. And she was like, yes. And so that's pretty special. But one of my very first clients, who is still a client of mine, I started coaching with her when she was a second year dental student. And she was, as all second year dental students are, pretty stressed out and not sleeping well, not taking care of her emotional, mental, physical state very well, just all in studying, doing dentistry, it's typical second year. And we've worked together. She's now finishing up her first associate job out of dental school. So she's been there for 2 years and she's moving to another one further north. She's in Canada. And she has said that the coaching has radically transformed her relationship with dentistry as a profession and with herself as a professional, but also as a person outside of dentistry. And so, yeah, there's so many wins that we've gone through in the last 4 years that she is definitely my star client.
Wow. And so obviously they don't have to be able to come in and sit on the couch in your office. You can virtually, as we're having a virtual podcast here. So that's great because that gives you, the whole world is your marketplace, and people can refer you not on geography but on need, which is really, really important. So that's great, and that's a great story because you've helped somebody there who, and I think of my dental school reunions when we started them. I think we had one at 10 years, but then we didn't have another one till 25 years.
Yeah.
When we had the 25 year one, we invited people to that didn't actually finish their degree, people who started off in dental school with us. And some were teachers, some just said dentistry wasn't my calling. One became a lab scientist instead. Very happy. But it's funny, at the reunion, his wife goes, "You could have been a dentist like him." Yeah, he had this wife who was saying, you could have been better off. But often people have this, and I was thinking of even a good friend of mine who lives in Dallas, and as a dentist, he said dentistry wasn't for him. He said, "I'm a marketer." He said, "I just want to help people market their businesses, and the skills I'm learning in dentistry, I can help more business people." And his wife said, "Can't you just be a dentist?" And their marriage ended because of that. Her expectation was that she was the dentist's wife, not the marketer's wife. And he's moved on into a second marriage, very happy, and that became because of a marketing introduction. So again, dentistry is not the end all of a career choice, but sometimes people are, I think, unlike you, they are financially locked into a dental career because of student debt, practice debt, household debt, mortgage, family debt. And so dentistry has to be the career, but you can make dentistry enjoyable. You said you are working with dentists and helping. So that's really, really important too for our listeners out there, because most of my listeners are probably not going to do what you've done. And that's that. Wasn't there's a movie? Isn't there a movie with Billy Crystal? Is it City Slickers?
Right. Yes, that's a great movie.
Find yourself, and off he goes. But you can still find yourself within a dental career. It's just a matter of not letting the overwhelm take over. And I think that's also something that you do very well, is that with that thought of being a successful dentist, there is a thought of, I can do it. I can do everything. I can do it all. And we forget about overwhelm and what effect it has on us, what effect it has on our family, even what effect it has on our dental team. Why can't you just do this? Why can't you do it? It's just a little one extra task.
Mhm.
And then 1 becomes 5, becomes 10. So how do you handle those sort of people, those D-type people,
Mhm.
in the DISC profile, who are just they're the patients that want the first appointment in the morning or the first one after lunch because they don't want to sit down in the waiting room in the client lounge. They just want to come straight in and have their dentistry done. How do you handle those people in the dental environment or in your coaching environment to help them manage this thought that it's only one extra task, I can do it? Because
Mhm.
that's a
Mhm. Yeah, that is a big challenge because the dentistry attracts that type of personality for sure. And then we're rewarded for that type of personality, right? In school, we're rewarded for being productive. We're rewarded for putting our needs last. When we get into practice, same thing, right? We're rewarded. And so there's this change that happens where we sort of lose ourselves by always doing, accomplishing, achieving the next thing, right? And what I like to liken it to is everybody has their own North Star. Everybody has their true wisdom internally. They have their own answers. And that's what life coaching is all about, really, is helping somebody remember their own wisdom, helping somebody remember what their North Star is, what's really important to them. And so sometimes it's just a simple recalibration, but sometimes it's a remembering that you are the author of your story. You're holding the pen. And so there's lots of exercises that you can do where you go ahead in life and you say, if I continue on this path and it takes me here, and I look back, what am I going to think? Am I going to be at peace? Am I going to be proud of the legacy I left? Or do I need to tweak things right now? Do I need to recalibrate something? And so I think that that's really important for dentists to hear, is that they always have a choice. And I remember in the midst of my burnout, I certainly didn't feel like I had a choice. I felt pretty trapped and I felt pretty much like a victim in my own success. But with my life coach, I recognize that yes, I do have a choice and I can make changes and I can take action. And sometimes it's small little baby steps, right? And those are probably the best ones. Small little baby steps to bring you back to that North Star, to bring you back to what's important to you and rewrite your story so that you're happy with it when you finish it.
You raise a really good point there, Laura, because in life for everybody, it's all about making the right choices and not making the wrong choices. And people who end up with difficulty, it's usually making a wrong choice and not rectifying it or continuing along that path. And it's just about choice. And choices come down to values and ethics, really. If you've got good values, then you'll make better choices. If you've got good ethics, you'll make better choices. Bad choices are always associated with poor values, lack of values, and lack of ethics, not thinking of the bigger picture, not thinking of how does that affect other people. I have this discussion often with a friend who something which I find abhorrent is the concept of flipping real estate for capital gain, because you're trying to buy off somebody who is, you're taking advantage of them because there's an opportunity there, and then you're trying to tart up the property and sell it to somebody who's not aware that it's a tarted up and might have defects, and do this quickly. And I just said, it's not something that I would do to either party in those sort of situations. I would rather sell a home that somebody would value as much as I did in owning it. But my friend says to me, he says, David, there are people who need the money and have to sell in a fire sale. And there are then people who need a home and maybe in a hurry to buy and spend more than they should. And he said, you're just becoming part of that market. It's an interesting conundrum. It's a shades of grey thing, but I feel that I'm at the black and white end of the shades in that sort of discussion. But getting back to you, this is the work that you do really well. You help people realize that they have choices and that the choice they make has consequences that will help them to have a better life, as the choice that you made when you experienced that burnout
Right.
helped you then choose a better life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, if you talk about shades of gray, I think also too, I think that it's easy to drift from your values when you are in what I call cognitive overdrive. When you are, like you say, the doer, go, 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 all the time, on, right? Your nervous system isn't built for that. Your brain isn't built for that. And so you're not functioning at your best capacity. And so your decisions might not be the best decisions that the best version of you would make. Right. And so you can see how over time you can drift. At first, it doesn't feel like anywhere, right? You're not that far off. But over time, you've drifted all of a sudden. Like, for instance, my story, I wanted a small, tiny practice. And all of a sudden, it drifted into this monster of a practice, right? And had I stopped and tuned in to my true highest version of myself and said, how does this decision feel? Is this true to me? Is this really what I want to do? There probably would have been some better decisions made. And so I think that that's that gray zone where sometimes we can drift into decisions that aren't of our truest nature. And then we end up 5, 10, 15 years later, somewhere where we just had no idea we were going to be. But that's the beauty, is that we can make another decision. And in fact, I think it's Phil Stutz that says this, that the people that make the most decisions are the most successful. They go through that decision loop. And if you keep making decisions, so, don't, just because you maybe are somewhere where you didn't think you were going to end up, you can still make another decision, right? Like, a lot of my clients are new, young dentists, and they're so scared to make the wrong decision, right? And I'm like, well, but then you just make another decision and you learn, and that's how you grow, and that's how you become a better dentist.
Interesting. Not making a decision is actually a decision. Being scared, choosing to be scared rather than make a decision is a decision.
Yeah.
And so
true.
when they've got that, then you say, well, you're deciding, you think you're not making a decision, but you're actually making a decision to be indecisive. So it's not quite the red pill or the blue pill, but just choose and choose action. I think is probably the best thing. Inaction is inaction and what's the word? Lost it.
Okay.
It just doing nothing is contemplating things is just it's so debilitating. I think it's funny though. My wife, when we're traveling, she will say, "Well, let's just keep moving." And I go, "No, we've got to stop and look at the map, because if we move in the wrong direction, we go further away than if we stop and say where we've got to go." But she will often just say, "Well, we just keep moving," and I say, "No, we need to identify our decision." But movement is important, but it's also and this is a survival in the wild. I think when they find people who get lost and die in the wild, one of the reasons they get lost, one of the reasons they die, is that they move away from where they were last seen, and then they get disoriented, and so that they're searching. People are searching for them where they were last seen, and they've moved searching for higher ground, a road, whatever. And so that's also a decision to stay put is really, really important in that sort of situation. But in life, I think if you stay put, you get overtaken. If you think you've achieved it, you'll just get overtaken. And so, there is no finish line in life. In what we do, we just have to always find a new task. And I think my financial advisor said this. He said, "What are you going to do when you retire?" I said, "Not much." He said, "Most of my clients who do not much, they don't live much longer after they've retired." He said, "You've got to do something. You just got to be active. You've got to have a purpose for getting up in the morning." And so back to what you do, working on capacity is important, because you've got to know your limitations, but having at least something to do every day is better than having nothing to do. And and so that's a choice. What age do your clients range from? What are you working with them? You mentioned the young, newly graduated dentist who you've been working with for 4 years. Are you working with older, high achieving business people as well who trying to work on those end of career, end of work life choices, but still have considerable life left in them?
Yeah, I have the full range. I wouldn't say that I have any clients that are near retirement age. Most of my clients are from the new graduates to the early owner docs to the midlife owner docs that are kind of going through those challenges. And so that's probably the range. Yeah, I don't have too many near retirement people.
Well, a doctor once told me that he said, as a general practicing doctor, he said, David, your patients age with you. He said,
Mm.
so when you get towards 60, he said, people don't choose you because you're an old doctor anymore. They want somebody who's younger than them, who's going to look after them when they're old, not somebody who's older than them, who's going to be gone, and then they have to find someone else. And I thought that was an interesting philosophy. And then I thought, well, that is also true in dentistry. There is some wisdom in older dentists,
Mm.
but there is also a little bit of old dotty dentists, and am I better with a younger dentist who's up on the more modern techniques and the more modern doing things? But
Yeah.
with that, Laura, as a dentist who practiced for 35 years, every 5 years I would think I know more than I did 5 years ago. I'm
Mhm.
smarter than I was 5 years ago. So after 20 years, I said, well, I'm definitely a better dentist than I was when I was 15 years out. And after 25, the same for 20. And so, but it's hard to sell that as you start to look like an old dentist, and that then brings also those psychological issues that you become as all people as they age feel that they become invisible. All of a sudden, you become just the old man at the end of the line in the grocery store, and you go, "That's not how it's meant to be."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mindset stuff to do. I admire you for taking the leap of faith, but
Mm.
knowing that it was the right thing for you to do, and now you've been vindicated because of your successes as a life coach, and helping high capacity leaders is a niche within that, and I really like that because, as I said at the start, and you've said, everybody needs some form of improvement in everything, and especially in the way they think and the way they look for, if they do or should be looking for results. Get a result, improve on that result. Get a result, improve on that result. Because some people don't even do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, their lives are just a meandering generality, as
Right.
Ziegler used that term.
Yes.
A wandering generality,
Yeah.
rather than a meaningful specific. So you help them become meaningful and specific. I
Mm.
like that.
Mhm.
What's the future hold for Laura?
Gosh, I love that question. My life coach just asked me that actually, so that's top of mind actually. So, I absolutely adore what I'm doing working one-on-one with my clients. Those are some of my absolute favorite hours during the week. So, that will definitely continue. I hope to always be in relationship with people in our profession on a one-to-one basis. I also enjoy workshops. So I have several workshops that are in person. I think workshops in person are unique and hold their own specialness. So that is a piece of my repertoire that I love to explore as much as possible as well. And then, continuing to get out there and speak on the importance of holistic well being for the people that take care of the people. Because the better we are as caregivers, the better our patients are going to be. And so ultimately, if we care about their health and their well being, we need to be bringing the best version of ourselves to help them. And so I'm going to continue to get out there and speak about that and the importance and the ways to do it because there's so many ways to do it today. Sorry.
There is, and the thing that just hit me then when you said that the better that you can help your patients and customers be, the better their circles become as a result of them being better. And that's really, really important because, it, I mentioned about my friend, but it takes a certain type of partner to ride the roller coaster with somebody who is a high achiever. I've been very lucky to have such a very special relationship with my wife through all the things. No questions. Oh, you want to do that, David? Do it. If that's what we've got to do it. A lot of people don't have that, and that creates an internal tension in their relationship, which then bounces back, has a ripple effect back on their career and the choices they make. Oh, I can't do that because my partner they expect this, and this is going to be different for them or uncertain for them. So your role is so important in helping to smooth over those speed humps, be they intentional or accidental, or the speed humps. And so we've got to help make life a much smoother road for everybody. And it's not just the people who come to you, but their world and other people's worlds as well. So you're doing a great job. Laura, obviously you've got a speaking circuit, you've got a website so people can find out where you're speaking. How do people best get in touch with you if they feel that there's a calling and you can possibly help them?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry I had a tickle there, but yeah, my website is just lauraschwindt.com. So www.lauraschwindt.com. And there's a contact form on there, so you can reach out to me on there. Has a scheduling link if you want to schedule a call with me. That's all right there. There's a lot of free resources on my website. There's a North Star calibration guide that helps you reconnect with your North Star. There's a vitality index that's free. You don't even have to enter your email. So that's a real bonus, right? Like people don't want to enter their email, right? So there's a vitality index where you can answer a few questions and kind of get a snapshot of your vitality, where you're doing well, where you might need to make some tweaks, and that's my gift to you. So a lot of resources there. Please check out my website. Future speaking engagements are all on there. All the workshops I do are on there. So it's a wealth of information. And like I said, I would welcome a conversation anytime, no strings attached. So please reach out and I'm happy to connect.
Well, Laura, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for being a very interesting guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thanks for great questions. It was an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.